Hello and welcome to the pod. This is You've Been Called Out, and I am so incredibly excited to have you here today. I'm coming to you from my car, and after church, my husband is in a meeting, and I brought my laptop with me. I brought my microphones with me. Nothing is quite going as planned so far, but that's entrepreneurship, everybody. Welcome. That is how it goes. The Wi-Fi's not working, the hotspot's not working, so we're doing what we can with the setup that we've got, the technology that we've got. We're just rolling with it. Because you know what? This episode needed to be recorded. Either way, regardless of how everything quite comes together, the episode needed to be recorded because this is the moment in my day, in my week, when I have it together. And to me, it's way more important that I get to get this started for you and share this with you than it is for it to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. That is what mentors have said to me, and so that's what we're going with. So welcome. I'm so stoked to have you here. If you are not yet connected with me on Instagram, I would love to hear from you. If you want to DM me, I would love to connect with you. My Instagram is ERSeaberg, SEABERG, and I would love to connect with you. My DMs are always open, so I hope to hear from you over there. But for today, I just wanted to chat about kind of my backstory, how I got to this place, and the areas in my life where God has really called me out and how that's ultimately led to where I am today. So going back a little bit, I'm from New Jersey. So if you hear some northern accent sneak out, that's where that's from. I have always been accused of sounding like I'm Italian, even though I am Irish and Scottish. I don't quite know. I get in trouble for words like dog and coffee and walking and all that kind of stuff. My husband and I now live in Florida. We've been down here for 2 years. And so every now and then you'll hear me say y'all or whatever, and it sounds a little bit southern. So I'm a little bit all over the place. So if you're like, where is this girl from? What is she doing? That's what that is. So for my background, like I said, my husband and I moved here about 2.5 years ago, October of 2022. But prior to that, we were in New Jersey, living in Central Jersey. It is real. By the way, if you are a Jersey girl, you know that's true. If you're from anywhere else, you probably think we're crazy. What is Central Jersey? But it's real. So grew up in Central Jersey. My parents took us, me and my sister, to church. We went to the same church my whole life. Super involved in ministry, all growing up, and from the time that I was little, involved in the food pantry and involved in children's ministry as soon as I was old enough to hold babies and help with VBS, up through being involved in committees and building committee and search committee and deaconess committee, all these different kinds of things as I grew up. But it was just a constant influence in this space for service. That was the primary focus. And then in my work background, I was going to Monmouth University for English and education as a double major. I was going to be a high school English teacher. And about halfway through my program, I realized that it was not going to be the best fit for me. So I did what every good girl, straight A student does. I dropped out of college and I pursued the job that I had at the time, which was working for a solar company. I was doing some interning, and I was really enjoying it. I was finding a lot of fulfillment in it, helping different departments kind of, get caught up with whatever they were working on, and then I was moving on to the next department. It was very fulfilling work, and I was really feeling like I had a place there, and so I left school because I didn't know what I was exactly going to do with my life, but I knew that if I had switched majors, where I was at the time, I was going to end up going to school for 5 years, and I didn't want to do that. So I decided not to. I left. I really dove into my work. I switched to a full-time position, and I ended up moving into a role in more of an administrative capacity as a sales administrator. Ended up doing events, which was so exciting. I had wanted to do weddings probably since I was like 13 or 14 years old, this grand idea of doing weddings one day. And so when I was given the opportunity to start doing corporate events, I was like, this is it. This is the beginning stages of what this is going to look like for me. So super excited for that opportunity. We did some galas, some corporate retreats, all that kind of stuff, and it was awesome. Ultimately, I learned so much, and it was truly such a foundational experience for everything that I have learned and been able to build, because I learned about business, I learned about working on teams, I learned about creating events, client experience, guest experience, all that kind of stuff. And it was such an incredibly valuable experience that I had, and it was about, I believe I was there for about almost 6 years. Truly incredible. And then an opportunity opened up at my church. They were looking for an office manager because their office manager was transitioning out. She was moving, and I felt the call of the Lord on my life to just step into that role, and it came together where I was able to do that for about a year before we ended up moving. And it was truly an amazing opportunity, again, just to use some of those administrative gifts and things that I had learned while I was at the solar company to invest back into my church, the church that had poured into me my whole life. And then my husband and I decided to move to Florida, which was so crazy because my in-laws were moving, and they asked us if we wanted to come down and, rent their villa from them when they got their house. And we said yes, and within 3 months we were packing up our lives and moving to Florida, which was truly incredible. It was something that we had kind of dreamed of for quite some time, of how that was going to come together. We didn't know. We just knew that we wanted to be in Florida. We believed that the people that we were going to find and maybe raise our kids with one day was probably not in the area where we currently were, and we just didn't know exactly what that looked like. But it felt like the pull of Florida. We felt it. We knew, but we didn't know what it was going to look like. And we actually had just re-signed our lease at the end of January. In the beginning of February, my mother-in-law at her birthday dinner was like, so we're probably moving to Florida. And we were like, where were you like 2 weeks ago? But the Lord ultimately had his hand in everything, because at the time we were not ready to move. And so being able to have them already down here by the time that we moved was such a blessing. And now they're down here. My parents are down here as well. They were about 6 months behind us when they were able to sell their house and get down here. And so it's just been so incredible, being able to be in Florida, to be with them, establishing our lives here, and ultimately just seeing how the Lord brought that together was truly all in his timing, because if we had rushed it and done it in our timing, it would have been a disaster. And then when we were planning to move, I knew that I obviously wasn't going to be able to continue working at my church, so we planned for me to get a new job. And it looked like if I wanted to do weddings, like now was kind of a great time to get that started. So I had reached out to a couple of different planners, wedding planners down here in Florida in the area we were going to be in, and I connected with a few and ended up forming a day of assistant relationship with a planner down here who ended up becoming my boss and my mentor for the past few years. And she is such an incredible human being. It has been such a privilege to learn from her and get to know her and to work inside her business, and it's truly been wonderful. And while I was doing that, simultaneously, when I was doing, more like day of assisting in like a part-time capacity, I was also working for another company as their administrator. And then I transitioned more into like an operations manager role with them. Got to see, again, the inside of their business and, work on processes and vision and strategy and all of those types of things. And so just amazing experience to learn from entrepreneurs. The company that I was working as the operations manager, it was two guys who were working together to build something, and it was so cool to just see how they were doing it and how my boss working in weddings was doing things, and just learning from all of them. And yeah, it was so incredibly rewarding, and again, like, has formed so much of what I have learned as I'm building out my own business. And it was an incredible experience, and I was also able to then invest in their businesses as well with the things that I had learned coming from a larger corporation, and a little bit more of what that more formalized, more organized business structure looks like. So super grateful for the Lord for putting both of those opportunities together and placing those people in my life, because I again am a lot of who I am today because I was able to learn from them. So that was incredibly valuable and rewarding. And I from there just started to think about what does this look like for me going forward? Like, what's my vision? Do I want to be a wedding planner? Do I want to open my own business? That was always kind of the dream. And what I started to realize is that maybe weddings wasn't the ultimate goal. Maybe that wasn't the big picture dream that I had thought that it was. And I had a mentor back in New Jersey, somebody who is so dear to me, who invested in me as a human being and as a believer, and really came alongside me and was like, what are you trying to accomplish with your life? Like, where are you trying to go? And I was like, events. But this person always reminded me that ultimately our goal is to share the gospel with other people. And so in the back of my mind, that was always there. It's like, how am I advancing the gospel with what I'm doing? How am I telling people about the love of Jesus? How am I sharing that with them? How am I equipping other people to go and share the gospel? Because that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing through the business that he was running. He's an entrepreneur, and he was empowering other people. He was sharing the gospel, but he was empowering other people to go and share the gospel through the different opportunities that they had. And I always thought that was such a beautiful thing. We always think of like, well, how am I going to share the gospel with people directly? And we are absolutely called to do that as believers. But some of us have also been given the opportunity to equip other people to go and share the gospel. And I thought that was a really beautiful thing, and that had always stayed with me. And so as I was thinking through, what does this look like for me going forward as a business owner? What's the vision? Like, what is my entrepreneurial journey going to look like? And I started to process through that, and I realized that wedding planning was just not it. My heart, my passion, what I believed my purpose was not fully aligned with wedding planning anymore. And I am still at this present moment that I'm recording this in January of 2025, I'm still actively doing weddings. I am working for that same wedding planner that I started working for, and it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful that I get the opportunity to do that. It's just not the long-term vision anymore. So as I was working through what is the long-term vision, I started pivoting towards coaching. And there, as we all know, the online coaching space is blowing up right now. It started out with the fitness influencers and has really transitioned to so many different people working in the online space and coaching other people in every area that you can think of. And so I started to think maybe my focus is supposed to be wedding professionals, because I understand the wedding industry. I know the daily struggles. And so how do I help them with business and with lifestyle and all these different things? But a huge thing that was missing for me was my faith. And I didn't know how to work my faith into what I was building. And it didn't feel organic, it didn't feel authentic, and it was noticeable. And so I had mentors and coaches who were asking me, like, you feel disconnected, it seems like you feel disconnected from your brand, like, what's going on, where's the disconnect? And I couldn't identify it. And I had transitioned out of the program that I was in, the mentorship program I was in, and I was kind of in this lull, this holding pattern. Nothing was really happening. I wasn't moving backwards, but I wasn't moving forward. I wasn't building something. I was just kind of there, and I knew I was restless in my spirit, and I knew that I I was supposed to be building something, but I didn't know what it was, because what I had thought that I was supposed to be doing was not coming together. And so I ended up going out to breakfast with my dad, because he is just an incredible spiritual leader, and he has been, an amazing father, an amazing mentor, and just an amazing source of biblical truth and wisdom for me. And I knew that he would be able to give me some insight into some things that I was missing. So I was like, Dad, like what, these are kind of my options. This is kind of what I'm thinking. Like, what am I missing? My dad's so funny. He was like, well, do you have time after this? I was like, I have nothing but time. Like, I need help here, Dad. So, we ended up driving for a little bit, stopped and picked up some nice coffee for him and a lemonade for me. You'll learn I am not a coffee gal at all. I am a tea and lemonade gal. So I picked up this beautiful, delicious, I think it was like a prickly pear lemonade. That's totally besides the point, and I'm rambling, but I love a good flavored lemonade. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So we're sipping our lemonades, and then we go and we're sitting by the marina and we're chit-chatting, and he's like, okay, like, we've been talking all day kind of around the subject, but we've been touching on it. We touched on a lot of really, really helpful things, but it was like, now it's time to get to the core of this. Why is this not working? I feel like the Lord is calling me to coach, to build a business. Why is this not coming together? And he said to me, who are you building this business for? And who are you building this business as? And he said, I've heard you say I'm a strong, independent woman. I've heard you joke about that before. Is that the girl who's building this business? Or are you building this business as Erin, the believer in Jesus? And I was like, I don't know how you want me to answer that question. He was like, right, but are you trying to build this in your own strength, or are you trying to build this with the Lord being the driving force and the one who's building this through you? And I was like, oh, well, no, not really. I'm definitely trying to just muscle through this on my own. And he was like, okay, great. Where is Jesus in your business? And I was like, he's missing, and I know he's missing from being in my business. And I'm trying to figure out where to put him in it, how to infuse him into it, and I just can't figure it out. And he said, well, what if he was at the center of it? And I was like, oh. And it was that light bulb moment. Talk about being called out. When your dad says, where is Jesus in your business? And you talk about trying to fit him into a box. Yeah, I threw a scripture out on social media the other day, whatever. My dad was like, no, what if he was the foundation of your business and you built everything else around it? And I could not even, my mind was blown. And maybe that seems obvious to some of you, but it did not seem obvious to me. It was groundbreaking. It was earth-shattering. And I was like, well, I'm building all this out and I have all this structure. And he was like, right, but if Jesus is missing from that and you feel that, that he's missing, I'm not saying to start over, but you might want to consider starting over. And I was just, and at this point we had spent hours together working through different concepts. My brain was toast, and I just could not even, I had no idea where to go from there. I was like, okay, I have to think about this. I have to pray through this. I have no freaking idea what this is gonna look like. And so I went home and I was like, okay, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, I'm willing, but I don't really know what this is supposed to look like. And immediately, the Lord said, teach other women what I am showing you that you need to do. Teach them how to make me the entire focus of their business. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'm in. And I pivoted. And everything that I have built in my coaching program is designed now to teach women who have been called by God to have businesses how to make Jesus the center of their business and let everything else flow from that source. Because if he's not the center of what we're working on, there is no point. because he's everything. He's everything. He's the foundation of who we are as human beings. He's the foundation of how we're going to share the gospel with other people. And if he is not at the core of your business, then what are you even doing? So that was my call out. And it came after months of praying and working through things. And I was like, Lord, like, what do you want from me? That's what my journal, when I tell you that the pages of my journal are filled with, Lord, what do you want me to do? I'll do anything, for months and months and months. And then he was like, I want you to make it all about me. And I want you to teach other people how to do that. I want you to teach women how to do that. And I was like, okay. It was a moment of absolute clarity. And I could not even believe it. It was truly incredible. And so that's what I'm doing. Building out a program, a coaching program that's about teaching women how to put Jesus at the center of their business, their branding, their messaging, how they love and serve their clients, everything. From start to finish, he's at the center of it. And I have never felt more aligned and more excited in my life. And then on the side of that, I have also had in my mind and in my heart to start a podcast. That has been another thing that has very much been there, and I didn't know exactly what that was supposed to look like, but over the past couple of months, there have been things that have been popping up about being ready to tell your story and sharing testimony and different things. This has been Instagram posts I've seen, sermons I've seen, all this kind of stuff. And it was all pointing back to go and share. And we can share on social media, absolutely. But the long form nature of podcasts really seemed like the place, like really being able to dive into what the Lord is doing in my life and what this journey is looking like, and then also hopefully providing opportunities for you and for the women in your life that you know who are also entrepreneurs to be able to share their journey, because I know that I am not the only one who is seeing the Lord work in her life, in her entrepreneurial journey. I'm not the only one, and I want to give you and the sisters in your life who are on this same path, I want to give you an opportunity to be able to share that, because I know I'm not the only one, and I could ramble on. I'm sure I could find something to talk about every single episode and keep the focus on what the Lord is doing in my life. And that's so not why the Lord has called me to do this. I know that he wants to give you space too to talk about this. And so I want to invite you, if you have a story of what the Lord is helping you to build, or what the Lord is building through you, that's really what it is. The business that the Lord is building through you, if you have a story and you want to share that, I want to hear it, and I want to share it. I want to share it with the women who are listening to this podcast. I want them to be able to hear it, because I believe that that's what the Lord wants. I believe that he wants to have the stories of what he's doing through women in these roles as entrepreneurs. I believe that he wants them to be shared to encourage other women. And so if you have a story, I have like a little brief questionnaire that I can send you if you want to connect with me on Instagram. Like I said at the beginning, ER Seberg. If you want to shoot me a DM and just say, I have a story about what God is doing through me in this business that he's building through me, I would love to shoot you that questionnaire. We'll make sure that everything is aligned, and I would love to have you on the podcast. Like, this is not, if I have learned anything in the last year, in the last even 6 months, this is not about me. This is the farthest thing from who this is about is me. It is about Jesus, and about sharing the gospel with people, and about furthering the kingdom through the stories and the personal connections that are available to us through entrepreneurship and through the businesses that we're building. So please tell me about your story. I want to hear it, and I want to give you space to share it, because I want so many women to be encouraged by your story, by my story, by what the Lord is doing. And I want other women to feel empowered to share that and to embrace that. Our faith is not popular, and I get that. I know that, and I know it's so scary to talk about. And I want to give you a safe space where you're able to share that, a space where not only is it safe to share, but it's welcomed, it's encouraged. And that's really what the goal of this podcast is. If I could sum it up, I've been rambling for a minute, and I hope that you're still listening and that you're as excited as I am to work through these different things. There's definitely going to be episodes where I'm sharing tips and ideas and things that I'm working through, but these stories are meant to be shared because the goal of this podcast is to encourage, and it's to form community, because so much of what we do as entrepreneurs is isolating. So much of this journey is feeling like nobody else understands. And then you add in the component of being a believer, and it really, really isolates you even further, because you're like, not only do my friends and family not understand what I'm going through because they don't understand the mindset of an entrepreneur, and that's totally okay, but it's isolating that way. But now I'm trying to get help from other entrepreneurs in different areas, and they do not understand what it looks like to do this as a believer. There's different standards, there's different ethics, there's different core values that are not aligned, and it's so incredibly isolating. And so ultimately, Jesus Christ is our source of strength, and that is who we are going to draw everything that we need from. Everything. He is our source of everything, but he has also given us community, because we are not supposed to be doing this alone. So that's my ultimate goal, is to build community and to encourage and to advance the gospel and to spread the name of Jesus through all of our customers, clients, everybody that we can reach out to through the businesses that the Lord is building through us. So I'm so excited to be able to do this, to have this opportunity, to have this platform. It's truly incredible, and I cannot wait to talk to you and to be able to get your story on this podcast and to share, so that we can continue to encourage each other and to lift up the name of Jesus and to lift each other up. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you. I'll talk to you soon.